Please like, subscribe, and share. When unjust enemies rise against you, threatening your peace and integrity, know this: Psalm 56 becomes your mighty armor and shield. In the moments when betrayal stings and fear presses upon your heart, this sacred psalm calls you to a steadfast trust in the Lord's unwavering love. You have taken account of my wanderings. Put my tears in your bottle. This is not just a plea, but a divine assurance that every sorrow and every unjust attack is known before God. The Lord is your refuge and your shield. He surrounds you with a fortress of righteousness that no weapon forged by the unjust can penetrate. You may feel the weight of slander, the sting of deceit, the burden of oppression, yet Psalm 56 lifts you above these shadows. It invites you to anchor your soul in prayer, the very shield that fortifies your heart and mind against the arrows of the enemy. When you call on God's name, who vindicates the righteous, you declare a spiritual authority that dismantles every plot crafted in darkness. The Lord's mighty arm defends you. No scheme devised by those who wrong you shall stand. You will not be shaken, for the God who watches over you does not slumber nor sleep. Imagine your enemies plotting in secret, speaking malicious words to harm your reputation and peace. Yet the psalmist's voice rises, confident and unyielding. My enemies will retreat in the day when I call to you. This is more than hope. It is a divine promise of victory. The Lord hears your cries. He has taken note of your wanderings and your tears. You are not forgotten. Your pain is preserved in His holy presence. This truth becomes a fortress in your spirit, a shield that deflects every false accusation and every attempt to break your resolve. Stand firm in faith, for God's protection surrounds you. You are not alone in this battle. The Lord is your refuge and your shield, your ever-present help in times of trouble. When unjust enemies assail your character and threaten your soul, Psalm 56 is the sword of the Spirit that cuts through fear and doubt. You can walk boldly, clothed in the righteousness of God, knowing that His justice and mercy defend the innocent. The enemy's schemes will fall like dry leaves before the storms of divine judgment. This psalm is a bulwark, a spiritual fortress where your faith is strengthened and your courage renewed. Meditate on its words. You, O Lord, have delivered my soul from death, my feet from stumbling, that I may walk before God in the light of life. These powerful declarations remind you that no matter how fierce the opposition, the Lord's mighty arm is your shield and your strength. The adversaries that rise against you are but shadows before the blazing light of God's deliverance. Do not shrink back in fear or despair when faced with wrongful attacks. Instead, lift your voice in prayer and proclamation, embracing Psalm 56 as your divine armor. This is not a passive defense, but an active, vibrant shield that surrounds you with protection and peace. The Lord's justice will prevail. He will uphold those who call upon His name. Even in the deepest valleys of betrayal and threat, you are held securely in the hand of the Almighty. Your tears are not wasted. They are treasured in the bottle of God's remembrance. Every step you take in faith, every prayer uttered in trust, builds an unbreakable fortress of spiritual resilience. As you stand firm under this divine protection, you become a living testimony of God's faithfulness and power. The enemy's attempts to destroy you are thwarted by the very hand that shapes the cosmos. Let this truth settle deeply in your heart. The Lord is your refuge and your shield. When unjust enemies rise, Psalm 56 is your mighty armor. Claim this promise with confidence and boldness. Let your spirit rise above the turmoil, knowing that God's mighty arm defends you. The unjust will not prevail. Your victory is assured in the name of the Lord who vindicates the righteous. Stand firm, brave warrior of faith, for you are surrounded by divine protection that no enemy can overcome. You have taken account of my wanderings. Put my tears in your bottle. This sacred promise carries with it the power to break every chain that fear, anxiety, and helplessness have forged around your heart. When unjust persecution comes, when accusations rise like a storm to shake your very soul, remember that Psalm 56 is not only your shield but your declaration of victory. You will call on God's name, who vindicates the righteous, and in that calling, you unlock a realm of spiritual authority that silences every enemy and restores your peace. The Lord is your refuge and your shield. He is your fortress in the midst of chaos. The oppression that threatens to overwhelm you is shattered by the power of God's faithfulness. You are no longer a victim to falsehood or hostility. You are an overcomer, armed with the confidence that comes from divine favor. Your reputation, once tarnished by slander, is renewed, for the Lord stands beside you to restore what the enemy sought to destroy. Your footsteps are firm on the path of righteousness, walking boldly because God's mighty arm upholds you. Feel the chains of fear falling away as you embrace the truth that the Lord fights on your behalf. My enemies will retreat in the day when I call to you. This is not mere wishful thinking, but a prophetic declaration of triumph. The spiritual battle that rages around you is met with the full force of God's power. Every scheme designed to oppress and silence you dissolves before the light of His justice. You are empowered to walk in peace, shielded by the armor of prayer and the sword of God's word. Your soul is delivered from death. Your feet are kept from stumbling. This promise is an anchor in the storm, a reminder that no matter how fierce the opposition, God's protection is sure. You are called to rise above anxiety and despair, to stand firm in the authority granted through faith. The Lord's name is your refuge, your fortress, your shield against the attacks of the unjust. When you call on Him, you are declaring a spiritual sovereignty that commands enemies to scatter and retreats fear to silence. The restoration of your peace and reputation is a testimony to the power of God, who vindicates the righteous. You are not defined by the accusations or hostility leveled against you, but by the righteousness of God that clothes you. As you declare Psalm 56 over your life, you break free from emotional and spiritual bondage. The anxiety that once gripped your heart is replaced with a renewed hope and unwavering strength. You walk boldly, no longer weighed down by unjust attacks, but empowered to live victoriously. This is your divine mandate, to embrace the authority given through Psalm 56 and to walk in the confidence of God's protection. The Lord fights for you, silencing the unjust and breaking the chains of oppression. Your voice, raised in prayer and declaration, becomes a weapon that dismantles every scheme of the enemy. You are not only delivered, but empowered to stand as a beacon of hope and strength to others facing similar battles. You will call on God's name, who vindicates the righteous, and watches your enemies retreat in the day when you call to Him. This spiritual victory is your inheritance, a divine guarantee that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. The Lord is your refuge and your shield. He surrounds you with His presence and power. In this assurance, you find courage to face every trial, knowing that God's mighty arm is at work on your behalf. Stand firm, beloved warrior. Your spiritual authority is real and active. You are empowered to break the oppression that sought to bind you, to silence the fear that tried to control you, and to walk boldly in the restoration granted by God's faithfulness. The Lord has delivered your soul from death. He has kept your feet from stumbling. Now, rise with confidence. Share this powerful psalm with others, and foster a community united in victory over every form of injustice and evil. Together, you stand invincible, shielded by the Lord who never fails.